coming off one of the best homestands of the year, the Mariners went to Baltimore and promptly lost a series that they absolutely should have won. Joe and I are going to talk about everything that happened in this series before we talk about some of the reinforcements that are coming for this team, including Bryce Miller, Victor Robles, and of course, Luke Raley. When can we expect them back? We'll give you our FanDuel favorites before we talk about the New York Mets series and the Little League World Series Classic that's coming up here over the weekend. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 216 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by FanDuel and part of the Bleav Network. And this is the Seaside, Oregon episode of the podcast, because that's where you are, Joe. How you doing?
Well, technically, Colton, I'm in Astoria. We went to Seaside today. I sent you a picture literally yesterday that said Astoria is like my geolocation.
So,
Like, yeah, we went to Seaside this morning. If you're ever at the Funland Arcade in Seaside and you see two records on on the basketball hoops, the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder one, just know one's at 71, one's at 69. All me, baby. All me. Run it up at the arcade like I do so well. Used to come here a lot as a kid. So, we still got it, okay? We still got it. Unlike the Mariners in Baltimore, right? They could not exit their home and continue winning. I mean, they did in the first game, but it was not an overly exciting game. I mean, 1-0. Sure, awesome, cool. You get a win. You feel like against Dean Kramer of all pitchers that you should be able to scratch off a couple more than a singular run. But when your pitching holds the other team to 0, all you do need is 1 to win. George, I mean, vintage, 7 innings, 3 hits, nothing earned, nothing there. No walks, 7 strikeouts. Bizardo, 2/3 of an inning. You burn Gabe for an out, but it is what it is. And then Munoz slams the door in the 9th. A good 1-0 victory in the first game. And you'd hope that maybe this wasn't, more to come for the offense the rest of the series. And as anyone who paid attention to the baseball team this weekend, you know that that's not necessarily true. But the Mariners, I mean, 1 run on 6 hits, like, I don't know. There's just, unfortunately for this series, there's not going to be a ton of positive to talk about, I don't think. So, yeah.
yeah, this was a game where the offense just couldn't do anything. And for whatever reason, Dean Kramer has been good against the Mariners every single time he faces them. So I kind of chalked it up to that, right? I chalked it up to, for some reason, the Mariners just can't hit Dean Kramer. It's one of those weird things. George Kirby looked like vintage George in this one. He was nearly perfect throughout this start, going those 7 innings. That's exactly what the Mariners needed from George. And he's honestly been really, really good in his past 4 or 5 starts as well, throwing a quality start every time out there. Now, going into game 2 with Logan Gilbert on the mound, you hope for a little bit more of the same. And Logan was fine in this game with 6 1/3 innings pitched with 4 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Definitely some interesting managerial decisions in this game. First of all, Logan was only at like 80 pitches or something like that. He definitely could have kept going, but they wanted that left on left with Gabe Spire, and it was the worst that I've seen Gabe Spire look all year. He went 2/3 of an inning, gave up 3 hits, 1 earned, 1 strikeout, and yeah, just a rough outing for Gabe, and that was kind of all there was to it for that Mariners bullpen. They were able to tie this game up in the 9th inning, but unfortunately, Matt Brash, Joe, just ended up giving this one away.
Was it Matt Brash giving it away? I was not fully able to watch the majority of this game, but like, I mean, tying it up in the 9th, I saw Dom gets a pinch hit opportunity and drives a deep fly ball, deep enough to score a tying run. Like, there's definitely questions leading into this game about Mitch Garver DHing, and of course you're facing Trevor Rogers on the mound, so like there's a lefty on the mound. It's like changing the lineup and like going against what's worked so well for you the last, 10, 12 games. Going against that and having Garver DH against Trevor Rogers, like, I understood that for the most part. Saw a lot of questions about Dylan Moore, and I don't know if I want to anger the beast here. I don't know if I want to wake the snake over there and have you talk about Dylan Moore and what happened in this game. But you had a pretty hit tweet this evening when this game happened of, that's why Dylan Moore's on the field. And he had a good diving play.
Hmm. One that
And
Tom
then
Canzone doesn't make.
naturally, and then of course, as the universe works its way out, everything just completely backfires and falls apart for Dylan Moore. It seemed like after that, like I don't know what the never mind is. Like, was there an error? Like
Oh
it
God.
was he dropped the ball in foul territory. Is that what happened?
Yeah, so let me run you through the series of events here. Dylan Moore makes a great play in right field. I tweet, you know what? That's Dylan Moore's, purpose on this team, to play good defense and to cause chaos on the bases. And everyone took that as me saying he needs to start. I'm like, where did I say that? I just I even tweeted after. I'm like, I'm not saying he should start. If you guys know me, you know I don't like Dylan Moore. Um, and then a few innings later, it ended up in the seventh inning there. Logan was still on the mound. A There was a runner on first base and a pinch hit opportunity for Jeremiah Jackson, I think it was, and he hits a ball to right field. And it's off the wall, and Demo completely misplays it
Mm,
horribly. And he has to start running back towards the infield to get to the ball. So it ended up being a triple. They threw it into Josh Naylor, and because Dylan Moore has a wet noodle for an arm, Naylor had to try to rush the throw, and he made a bad throw, and it ended up being an
mm.
error, which ended up being a little league home run. So 2 runs scored on that play. The next batter
Oh,
pops out. So that's when I said, never mind. The next batter pops out to the outfield. Dylan Moore camped right under it, drops it. And that's when I
was it
just
in
tweeted,
fair? Was it
no,
in
it was a
fair
foul ball.
territory? Okay, but it should have
But
been
it
out.
ended up
Well,
being
yeah.
it ended up being a hit right after that. Like the
Mm,
guy got a hit on the next pitch. And it's like, okay, well, way to go, Dylan. I think that was the end of the line for Logan at that point. Like just an absolute piss poor showing from Dylan Moore. He struck out twice and I think grounded out at some point in this game.
yeah.
Like he has zero use on this roster if he's not going to be able to field a baseball. No
Uh
point.
huh.
There's no point in keeping him on this roster. That is the last time I ever defend Dylan Moore.
You
Oh,
tried. You
I
tried to be
did.
the good guy, and then it immediately backfired. I know there's some talk about where he was positioned on the Jackson Holiday double that ended the game. There was only a runner on first base, correct?
Yep.
So like ball into the corner. If he's not shaded towards center, he could probably cut it off faster or get to it quicker, and maybe it's held at second and third. I guess is the idea there. Not to say that you're inherently wrong about saying that Matt Brash gave the game away, or like the
Right.
game
Yeah.
ended
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Matt
Yeah.
Brash on the mound. But like, sure, he wasn't able to be as effective and execute as well as we normally see, and of course, expecting him to be damn near perfect every time out is not always super realistic. It's just unfortunate it comes in the form of the Orioles' first walk-off of 2025 and a game that you probably could have won. I mean, Julio had a good. I mean, he went 2 for 4 in this one, and then we get to the third game and just stinky up until the rain delay, and then Julio hits a 2-run. It was like it seemed like Julio had a good series, which
Yeah.
is like if there's a silver lining of the series, it's Julio had a good series and the starting pitching that should be on the team the rest of the year. No discredit to Logan Evans in the final, but the starting pitching, for the most part, I mean, specifically George, Logan pitched well ish, and then George, obviously, but the pitching did the majority of its job in this series against Baltimore, but a long rain, a rain delay that was probably longer than the game itself in this third and final game. I mean, Logan Evans only goes 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned, 4 walks, which I did not know about. Which is, me at the arcade living it up, and then he's just tossing 4 walks there. I mean, like just two different lives that we're living. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're at the arcade living it up. I'm out on the lake, not catching any fish
Yeah.
and listening to this Mariners game. Did you know that Logan Evans got hurt in this game?
No.
Now you do. So this was a game against Tomoyuki Sugano where I really felt like the Mariners offense was going to be able to get going a little bit. Is this Mariners offense, Joseph? Are they T-Mobile Park merchants?
Which is something you never thought you'd say ever in your life.
Right. Are they T-Mobile Park merchants? Because they hit like crap in this series. But nonetheless, let's talk about Logan Evans here because it's probably going to be his last start for the Mariners this year if everything goes correctly. He went to make a play at home plate on a pass ball to try to tag out a runner, and he got his hand, like his pitching hand, like caught up in the cleat or something like that.
Oh,
And so it was all bloody. They had to put like some liquid bandage or something. I don't know what they did. It was kind of hard to tell. But anyway, and that was kind of the beginning of the end for Logan. He had actually pitched pretty well up until that point, and then everything just sort of imploded after that.
which makes sense.
He walked a guy or two. Yeah, like you could just tell he wasn't the same pitcher. And then Carlos Vargas comes in, does Carlos Vargas things, gives up 2 earned, walks 2, and gives up a hit. But then we had this 2 hour and 16-minute rain delay. Long, long rain delay in the top of the 6th inning, runner on first base with Julio at the plate in a 1-1 count. They come back, different pitcher on the mound from Sugano. Julio hits a home run to pull the Mariners a little bit closer in this one. You get to the 9th inning, the Mariners were able to scratch across a run that they really had a chance to do a whole heck of a lot more. They had the bases loaded with 1 out,
Yeah.
and they just weren't able to capitalize on that. Josh Naylor grounds out to second base to end. You had the right part of the order up. You
Yeah, it
had the
was.
part of the order up that you wanted. It just
Mhm.
unfortunately didn't work out.
They pinch hit Cal with 1 out in the 9 spot with a base open to effectively load the bases as a guarantee because they're not going to let Cal swing and tie the game more than likely. So
Right.
then you get the bases loaded with 1 out with the top of the order coming up. Yeah, like they just didn't come in clutch. And of course, if you're not down 3 runs up until that point, maybe it's a different story. Like maybe the circumstances end up being different. But ultimately, you lose that game, and that's just you lose a series to the Orioles, which starting a 9 game road trip where the competition escalates every series. It seems like the quality of opponent losing a series to the Orioles out the gate was not the way that we had envisioned or had hoped this 9 game road trip to start.
Especially when the way this road trip started was a win over Baltimore, which put you in first place in the division. Like after the high of that 9-game homestand, you come out and then you win the first game of the road trip and you pull into first place in the American League West. It really felt like, okay, like this Mariners team, even though they didn't score, they still found a way to win. It felt good. You come out of this series and you're a game and a half back now of Houston. Obviously not insurmountable by any means, but just kind of a bummer that that's the way things went. I talked about it a little bit on stream over the past couple of days. So after the first win, so after the first game of this series, the Mariners had 42 games left. They had 67 wins. If they went 21-21, so they played 500 ball the rest of the way, then they would win 88 games.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is good enough this year for a wild card, which,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I think you probably need to get 91, 92 to win the
For the
division,
division. Yeah, probably.
but they're in there for a wild card going 500, and they've lost 2 games since then. So now you got to go what 21-19 the rest of the way
Yeah.
to reach that magic number of 88, which is 54%, mind you.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
but like I mentioned, Logan Evans did get injured in this game, but thankfully there is some reinforcements on the way. Bryce Miller made what we expect to be his final rehab start in Tacoma yesterday. He went 5 2/3 when they were playing in Las Vegas. He
Mm-hmm.
walked 1 and struck out 4. He threw 76 pitches, given up 2 runs. He threw 51 of those pitches for strikes, and his fastball's in the upper 90s, registering at 97.6 at one point as well. His fastball velocity remained up there. It didn't diminish like it had over the couple of starts that he made coming off of the injured list. And that's a good sign. I mean, if you can add Bryce Miller back to a rotation that's been pretty good recently, and he can be anything of what he was in 2024, that's a very, very good pitcher.
Yeah, and we know that he had not been that pitcher like his entire time in 2025, and that's what ended him up on the injured list twice, 2 separate occasions. One where the first one he rushes himself back maybe, or he just feels like he's ready to go and then ultimately is not, and then goes back on the injured list for 2 months. And we honestly thought that he was probably done for the year. Like it felt like maybe he would probably just kind of call it there, get the surgery, and then be ready to go for next year. But Bryce, it's his decision ultimately, and if this ends up paying off for the Mariners in the final stretch of the season, down the last 40 games, he makes, 7-ish, maybe 8 starts. depends on if they continue, if they restock the rotation at any point. And he is better than Logan Evans because that's what you're kind of asking him to be, is Logan Evans or better down the last 40-ish games here. And we've seen Bryce be better than any pitcher on this team in its current state right now during stretches of his rookie season and last year as well. I don't expect to reach those highs. If you can land somewhere in the middle there where you are just effectively going 5 innings of, 1 to 2 run ball more often than not out of a guy who potentially shouldn't even be pitching right now because of where that elbow is at, I think that's a definite positive that you can take away, and you just have to hope that that fastball velo does stay in the higher, like not like high 90s, but like mid to upper 90s, where it's 95 to 97. If it starts to dip below that, and that's where he finds himself getting into a lot of trouble, you may be in trouble down the stretch with where your rotation is at, because I doubt they want to go back to Logan Evans just given his innings. It's something we've talked about with the return of Bryce. It's kind of coinciding at the right time for Logan Evans to be kind of done for the year just in terms of his innings limit, or I guess inning count, not necessarily a limit, but you get what I mean. And then for Hancock, they preferred Logan Evans to Emerson Hancock this entire year for the most part. So again, you need Bryce Miller to come back and show that he can be competitive for 5 to 6 innings and not push him beyond that. If you try and stroll him out there for, like, this is going to be a last year Brian Wu coming out like at the beginning of the season where there's going to be moments where he's cruising at 78 pitches and he's going to come out and people are going to be mad. And that's just the nature of the game where you're preserving arm health and player health just in general. And I think like understanding that going into where Bryce Miller is at, especially given where his season could have ended up at, where he makes however many, like he's pitched 50-ish innings and like that's it. The fact that he's coming back is big. And again, like you said, you just need him to be dependable. And I think that the rehab starts, I think, show that he has the capacity to do so. Of course, the competition in the PCL, yes, it is the PCL, very hitter friendly, but it's nothing like major league competition. So I hope when Bryce does make his return, it doesn't go poorly, and then the ego and the confidence is then shattered in some way. But he is not the only reinforcement being added to this team soon. The other one being my twin, my bestie, Luke Raley, making. Whoa, don't take offense. Don't take offense to that. Guys, Colton's mad now. Luke Raley making some rehab starts down in Tacoma along with Victor Robles, but Raley definitely will be back a lot sooner than Victor Robles will. Robles, I mean, he could be with New York. He could be with the team in New York.
You mean Rayleigh?
What did I say? Did I say Robles?
You said Robles, yeah.
God damn it. Raley could be with the team in New York.
Yeah, Luke so far in his rehab stint in 9 games, he's hitting 314, 368, 600 with a 968 OPS. He has 3 home runs, including a grand slam. I'll be interested to see how that's going to work out for Luke. He's got to be close. He actually might be up before Bryce is up, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Bryce won't be up more than likely until until the second game in Philadelphia. I wouldn't be shocked if in the interim the Mariners sent Logan Evans down and brought up a reliever tomorrow just to have an extra reliever in that bullpen until you need to call Bryce up. But with Luke Raley, he should be ready to go. It's not like he was out for all that long with that back tightness that he had. I'll be interested to see how they decide to slot him in. If he is just a platoon guy, or he wouldn't even be a platoon guy. If he's just a guy off the bench, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Who, if you need a big lefty hit off the bench, you go to Luke Raley. I would assume, in a perfect world, it would be Dylan Moore
Yeah,
being
in your head.
DFA'd.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it probably won't be. It will be Miles Mastroboni getting optioned
Yeah.
because he is left-handed, just like Luke. Like Mastroboni hasn't played in 9 years, so like I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the plan is with this team. Like calling up Luke Raley, great. You're gonna have to replace somebody. Victor probably isn't gonna come back. We'll talk about him in a second. Probably isn't gonna come back until September, so you could just call him up with September call-ups. But there are so many options down in AAA. Call up Samad Taylor. He's been hitting the cover off the ball. Call up Leo Rivas. He's been hitting the cover off the ball and get rid of Dylan Moore. I'm back to it, Joe. I'm back to being mad at Dylan Moore. I will never stick up for McKiss.
You got burned for it, and you're never gonna allow yourself to stoop to that level.
That's
You're
right.
right. It is going to be a Miles Mastrobuoni option because of the way roster control just works. And even if that does seem, I guess, asinine, it seems like that is the wrong thing to do with how poor Dylan Moore has looked in his opportunities and how not as bad Miles Mastrobuoni. Like, I don't remember the last time Mastrobuoni played. I don't remember
Right.
like the last positive thing that he did, but I can tell you that I don't remember the last negative thing that happened to him either. Which means he has more like he has a fairer shot in my head to have not negative thoughts be, permeating in there. Whereas Dylan Moore, there are definitely some negative thoughts. And you mentioned Victor Robles. He is also back in Tacoma doing his rehab start. I think ahead of schedule, like rehab
Mhm.
start. It's just like a rehab stint. Like he's going to need like 30 to 40 plate appearances, is what I believe Justin Hollander outlined it as. And that I think would put him probably right along the timeline of a September call up. And that makes sense. You expand rosters, one position player, one pitcher, and then Victor Robles is just added to your bench, or he is starting in right field and Dom Canzone goes to the bench. It just depends on who's the hot hand at that point. And you're talking about Luke Raley as a fit. I mean, if they're still having like Garver DH every once in a while, if it gets to like the sixth inning and if there's a tougher righty on the mound than the lefty, you go to Luke Raley in that spot and you pinch him in the DH spot. Like, there's no reason to not do that at this point because right now with the iteration of the bench, they probably would feel more confident with Garver getting an extra at bat over a Donovan Solano, a Dylan Moore, or a Miles Mastrobuoni for whatever reason. When it's Luke Raley, I think you can confidently say that that should not be the case. And you kind of, not like you were flustered or frustrated by it, but like you're like, I don't know what they're doing with this team. I think it's because we have a very composite 1 through 9. Like everyone on the 1 through 9, like standard, like the lineup where it's Randy, Cal, Julio, Naylor, Gino, Polo, Dom, JP, Cole. That's your starting 1 through 9. And anytime you deviate from that, there's not someone that you're like begging to get put into the lineup. It's like, I wish we had the regular 1 through 9 back. When you add players to the bench, I think that that's a good thing when you have such a quality top to bottom to the order. And you're trying to figure out ways to get at bats for a guy that can provide value as opposed to forcing at bats onto someone who might come up short in certain situations. Like where Luke Raley fits into this team is a bench role at this point, just plain and simple. Unless Dom goes on a huge cold streak, then Luke can take over and right for the time being. But
Yep.
the reinforcements definitely will help. It's not going to be a ton of at bats though. It's mainly just raising the floor of outcomes from having to see Dylan Moore, twice a week to you don't have to see him really at all if you choose that. And of course, that's up to Dan Wilson. And whether or not there's players in Tacoma, like for whatever reason, Dylan Moore's still hanging on. If it's, you want to call up Samatel, you want to call up Leo Rivas, we hear you. Colton, I hear you. I don't disagree. But like, for whatever reason, they're just not doing it. And if it's clubhouse, if it's, tenure, something, like they feel like they owe it to Dylan Moore, if there's dirt that he has, we'll find out eventually.
It just feels like roster construction malpractice with the way that the bench is currently constructed. It should be your backup catcher should be Harry Ford.
Hmm.
Luke Raley obviously will be coming up. Samad Taylor should be on that bench instead of Dylan Moore. And then Donovan Solano, I mean, like
Uh,
I just like he's never gonna play. There's no point in having him. He's not gonna play. You're not gonna
mhm.
pinch hit him for Luke Ray or for Josh Naylor over there. I do want to talk about Victor's rehab stint so far, because he
Mhm.
just keeps getting hit by pitches.
Correct.
Um, he's only played in a handful of games so far, but he's already been hit 3 times in his couple of games. As of when Baseball Reference was updated, he's played in 2 games, hitting 333, 556, 667. Good for a 1.222 OPS. I mean, Victor, we know the vibes that he brings, very, very good vibes to this team, which is something they're going to need down the stretch. The dog days of summer, man. We're getting to that point, and again, it's not going to be till September that you're able to bring him up more than likely, but the reinforcements coming to this team are certainly going to help Joe in a playoff push,
Yep.
which obviously things have changed a little bit over the past couple of days because, well, the Mariners were in first place in the division. Now they're a game and a half back. But over on FanDuel for our FanDuel favorites, the Mariners are still at plus 950 to win the World Series, just behind
Boy.
the Blue Jays and the Padres, Joe. I don't know
Oh,
if we've ever seen those odds that high.
just ahead of them. It
Sorry,
goes,
yes.
yeah, just ahead of them as far as betting odds. The Blue Jays are at plus 1,000 along with the Padres. You have the Dodgers at plus 360 as the favorites still. You have the Phillies at plus 650, and then the Brewers, winners of 12 in a row, plus 850, and then the Mariners fourth. Best odds in the American League still plus 950. The makeup of the team I think does fit well into a playoff scenario where if they do get deep, this is a team that one again, the lineup depth will help them stay hot if they are rolling. The starting pitching has the quality to go 6, 7 innings in playoff high performance, high leverage games, and you have a couple of good arms that can hold down the back end of the game. The shortcomings for this team definitely to me are obviously like how streaky the offense can be, but also your bullpen feels 2 arms short at this point, and we don't need to fully delve into the trade deadline and stuff like that. But with the Mariners still sitting at the fourth best odds overall in baseball to win the World Series on FanDuel is kind of surprising for me, just like what we watched the last 3 games. But again, I think you taken the full sample of the Josh Naylor, Geno Suarez, Caleb Ferguson era Mariners, and like, oh yeah, that's the team that we know has the ability to go out there and play. It's just some nights they're not always going to be up to their full potential. And similarly, like the teams looking at the Mariners as competition, they're probably like, oh, we need to see this version of the team if we see them in the playoffs. Like you look at this Orioles series, like what did the Orioles do to the Mariners to make them look honestly kind of incompetent at some time? And you mentioned going 500 from that Thursday game, no, that Tuesday game. Um, going getting to 88 wins, needing 92 wins to potentially get the division. The AL West division odds as it stands right now, the Astros, still holding on to first place after the Mariners were tied with them for a short period of time. The Astros are currently at minus 145 to still win the American League West, while the Mariners are at plus 115. Mine got. So again, still like very reasonable odds, and it's a very achievable thing. You just need to play better. And there's the strength of schedule. I think the Mariners have like, gosh, it's probably like the 23rd hardest schedule the rest of the way, and the Astros have like the 25th or 26th on ESPN. I believe it was somewhere around there. The Mariners and Astros were both like in the bottom half, maybe even the bottom third for the rest of the way. So it's an uphill battle for the Mariners because like you're playing from behind, but also you have 3 games with the Astros, at the end of the season that could very well decide the fate of the American League West if it does get there. But FanDuel, the Astros are still the favorites at minus 145. So if you still want the Mariners at plus money and you still Bleav, there's still a chance.
Now's your time. Yeah, according to strength of schedule on Tankathon, the Mariners have the 20th hardest schedule, the Astros the 27th. So the
Mm.
Astros near the bottom of the barrel there. The Mariners obviously just playing the Orioles doesn't help. Like that series is over now. You look at the series in front of this team, and you have the New York Mets who have not been playing good baseball lately. They are they lost that division to the Phillies. They're 2-8 in their last 10. They've just been playing some really bad baseball, but so have the Orioles, right? And
Yeah.
so when you look at the FanDuel money line here, you have the Mets as favorites in this game, which is honestly kind of surprising to me, just because of how poorly they've been playing and how well the Mariners have been playing. I'm not sure, Joe, how to feel about this series because obviously the Little League Classic is going to be in this one,
Mm-hmm.
the third game of this series. But I do want to mention something that I saw on Twitter. This Mariners team obviously came off the high, sold out park with 45,000 plus fans there for Ichiro weekend every single night. And they go to Baltimore and it's raining, it's dreary, there's hardly anybody there because the Orioles suck.
Sure.
And the Mariners play down to their competition. They can't get it going. They look like this team had no spark because they didn't have, a bunch of people cheering them on. I mean, it's a tangible difference. It really is. And whether it's just because, the ball, it's just a more laid back like not as like high energy situation
Yeah.
compared to the way T-Mobile was or what. Nonetheless, that is the Mariners once again playing down to their competition, which we actually haven't seen them do in quite some time.
Yeah, and then looking ahead to the Mets series, like if they're playing down and like they're not up, like they need the spectacle. Going into a series against the Mets where that team, has some very big stars. Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor. I mean, Pete Alonso just broke a Mets record for most home runs for a Met all time.
Crazy.
There's yeah, and like they bought at the deadline. Cedric Mullins, Ryan Helsley, like there were like the Mets should be a better team on than what their record shows. And what I think has changed for the Mets in I don't have the exact turning point. I don't know like when they started losing an exceptional amount of games, but I remember at the beginning of this season that the Mets team ERA was the best in baseball, like for a long time. And it was what was continuously keeping them in games and winning them games and keeping them at the top of the National League East. And I did this from July 1st because I figured, over the last like 6 weeks, there's probably something tangible there. The Mets of the 21st best team ERA in all of baseball at 4.53 from where they were at like just above 3 for the majority of the season to having a 6 month stretch where their ERA is in the 4.5s and it's causing them to kind of slip and fall down standings like that to me signals like a weakness in this team as it stands right now. And like over just like on the year in total, the Mets pitching has it's still good. They're still top 10 in all of baseball at a 3.79. But when you look at where they were and where they've come, like their ERA has grown by like almost like a full run at this point, it seems like. And the Mariners over that time from July to now have the sixth best team ERA in all of baseball. Like it was like a 3.49. Like they like the Mariners are playing better than where they were, and now the Mets are playing worse. Talking about playing down to opponents, I hope that isn't necessarily the case in the spectacle. The spectacle, especially with the Little League Classic going on, is something that you can kind of see and bear witness to when you do get game one underway with Luis Castillo versus Sean Manaea tomorrow, or I guess today.
Yeah, happy 13-year anniversary to Felix's perfect game here on
Mm,
August 15th with Luis Castillo on the mound against Sean Manaea. Manaea's got a 4.33 ERA with 30 strikeouts on the year. Luis a 3.19 ERA with 120 Ks. We know about his home road splits so far this year, and I'm worried, Joe, that the organizational malpractice is going to continue versus this left-handed pitcher, and we're going to see a Mitch Garver DH day. Um, Not looking forward to that. But when you look down the line here, the Mets, obviously Luis was with the Reds, and so the Mets had seen him quite a bit. Jeff McNeil is hitting 455 and 11 ABs with 2 home runs. Juan Soto has a home run off of Luis and 10 ABs. And then Mark Vientos has a home run and is 2 for 3 off of Luis Castillo versus Sean Manaea. The only guy who's really done anything to even, talk about here is Julio Rodriguez. He's 2 for 4 with a home run and 3 RBI.
okay.
Otherwise, the rest of the lineup is kind of, you know. JP Crawford has the most at bats versus him with 22 with a 273 average. So I don't know. Sean Manaea, we know that he can be, we've seen him a lot over the years, especially when he was with Oakland.
Yeah.
I think that the Mariners can get to Sean Manaea a little bit, but it's really tough to say. This is a good offense. This is a good, very good offense. We did not see that in Baltimore. I just hope we can see that in New York.
I just don't know what the hesitation what the difference is with the team. Like what is the kill switch? What is going to get them checked in? Because you're in a division race, not just a wild card race. You're in a division race. You're in a league race. There's a chance that this team should be scoreboard watching the other division leaders at this point too, with the Blue Jays and Tigers. Like you had a chance to with the Orioles, continue get your win streak over 10 games if you'd swept them, but also like continue to chase down the teams in front of you. And with Sean Manaea on the mound in game one versus Castillo, I think it's a fun matchup in my opinion. Manaea was hurt at the beginning of the year, has returned recently, has pitched okay in some spots, not okay in some others, but you get a very different uh, pitching matchup in the second game with someone making their debut, Colton,
Hmm.
opposite Brian Wu. Nolan McLean. I don't know where he's ranked in the Mets farm, if he was ranked prior to, or he probably still is because that's how prospects work. But in 2025, across all minor league affiliates, he's made 21 appearances. He started in 18 games, he's done 113 innings to a 2.45 ERA. In Double A, which is where I Bleav he probably started the year, he 5 starts, 26 in the third innings pitched, a 1.37. Goes up to Triple A Syracuse, a 2.78 ERA over 87 and a third. I mean, it's a Triple A pitcher making their debut. Like, we've seen debuts go well against the Mariners in the past. We've seen debuts just in general kind of fall short. Nolan McLean is the third ranked prospect in the Mets organization right now, right-hander. So you'll get the good lineup, you'll get the fun lineup. Hopefully, pray to God there's no Garver for whatever silly reason, but you need the offense to wake up, like plain and simple.
This is a start where neither team has really seen either pitcher. The only person on the Mets that has seen Brian Wu is Juan Soto, obviously with the Yankees last year. He is 2 for 5 with a home run versus Brian Wu. And so with how good Wu has been, he has a 3.08 ERA. He has 145 strikeouts on the year. He goes 6 innings every single time out there. I feel like, this should be a typical Brian Wu start. I don't it's listen, the offense for the Mets is good. I don't think that it's so good that like Brian Wu can't continue to do what he's been doing. Whereas with McLean, he's facing a really good Mariners lineup, and I think is gonna kind of have a chip on their shoulder after playing in that Baltimore Orioles series. And they're gonna come out swinging. They're gonna come out, trying to make a difference in this game. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Mariners can go out there and attack a right-handed pitcher. Like you mentioned, if I see Mitch Garver or Dylan Moore at all during this series, well, we'll see Mitch Garver. If I see Dylan Moore in this series, I'm going down to T-Mobile Park and having a word with Mr. Stanton himself, Mr. Dipoto, Mr. Hollander, all of them.
Whoa. You're going to
Say,
give him,
hey,
hey,
hey, no, stop it.
with the spray
Um,
bottles.
unless, of course, it's like a pinch running opportunity, then that's fine.
More than likely, that ends up fine. Yeah.
The most fun series, or I'm sorry, game in this series is the final one, the Little League World Series Classic. Now, unfortunately, George does not get to pitch in New York. Obviously, we know, George is a New York guy. Clay Holmes on the mound for the Mets, obviously former closer for the New York Yankees. Mariners got to him last year for the first runs he gave up, if anyone can remember that. Holmes has had a good year. He has a 3.71 ERA with 101 strikeouts against George, who's also been really good, who also has a 3.71 ERA with
Mm.
90 strikeouts on the season. This is going to be a fun matchup because it is the Little League World Series Classic. The Bonnie Lake team will be there watching them. I Bleav Bonnie Lake plays on Friday,
Okay.
um, their first game of the World Series. So super excited to watch that. But nonetheless, versus George Kirby, Pete Alonso's hitting 667 and 3 ABs with 1 home run. Otherwise, not a whole lot to write home about. Versus Clay Holmes, kind of a similar story. Jorge Polanco is 1 for 1. Oh God.
Stop.
Mitch Garver's 3 for 3 versus Clay Holmes.
Oh, he's getting a start. He's getting a start for sure.
I hate it here. Anyway, yeah,
Uh,
those are the numbers. I don't care anymore. I'm mad.
you're mad. So in the past, last year, Tigers home team won 3-2 versus the Yankees. Year before, the Nats beat the Phillies as the home team 4-3. 2022, the Orioles, the home team, beat the Red Sox 5-3. The year before that, in 2021, the Guardians, the home team, beat the Angels 3-0. You got to go all the way back pre-COVID to find an away team win here. First one, or I guess the most recent one, comes from the Cubs, 7-1 over the Pirates. But, Colton, we get to 2018 and the away team Mets beat the Phillies 8-2. Maybe the Mets are an away team merchant in the Little League Classic, making their second appearance in it. Maybe they need to be the away team to win, and this favors the Mariners now. That's my copium.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't realize that the classic went back that far.
Me
I didn't realize
either.
they've
I
been
was
doing
looking at
it for
it
that
like
long.
it's on like just like the MLB whatever, like the little blurb that they have, like a little event thing. And I'm looking at like past events. I was like expecting it to stop in 2021, and then I just kept scrolling. It dates back all the way to 2017 debut. Pirates versus Cardinals. Pirates won 6-3. I'm looking at Matt Carpenter and Josh Bell in the little
Whoa.
thumbnail for it. So
Whoa.
little time capsule blast from the past there.
I don't like that. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I mean, the Mariners playing in Williamsport. Obviously, a lot of these guys have played, Little League. Obviously, like it's
Yeah,
gonna be
I'd
super
hope so.
cool. Duh, duh. It's gonna be super cool to see these guys on the same field that the Little Leaguers are playing on, and we're gonna watch Bonnie Lake play on. So I'm super excited about that game. I just really hope the Mariners could take this series before they have to go play Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is a pretty good ball club. But it's all going to start here on Friday. We appreciate you guys watching episode 216 of the Hit It Here podcast presented by FanDuel, and go Mariners.